How y'all doing? My name is Noah, and I'm going to be doing a series teaching you how to build a pinball application. So we're just going to get started right off the bat. By the way, if you're just starting on the series, and I'll mention this in my first video, I'm not expecting you to know anything, so don't panic. So it's okay. Just don't panic. Stick with me. The first thing I want you to do, or the first thing that we're going to do, is set up our developer environment. In order to do that, we're going to need to be running Linux, and we're going to run Linux through a virtual box. There's a lot of reasons for this. One reason is that it'll provide us a way to run an operating system and run a developer environment without affecting our computer. So if we do something really dumb, it won't destroy your computer. So it kind of provides a little bit of safety. It allows you to experiment with things, configure things, and you can have as many virtual machines as you want via VirtualBox. And VirtualBox is free. So what you need to do is you need to go click on Downloads right here, and we'll let that download. And you select your OS and just go through the installation process. For me, it was Windows, and I downloaded it like that. The next step is we're going to need a version of Linux to run. So we're gonna use xubuntu, which is a little bit lighter than Ubuntu. Ubuntu is another version of Linux. So what you do is you want to click this Download Now button, and it might be a little different when you get here. They change up their website from time to time, but you just want to click the Download button, and you want to select your country. In my case, it's the United States. And this is where it gets a little tricky, not too tricky. If you have a machine that is 32-bit, you want to install this one. If you have a more modern machine, you want to download this one. So I want you to download this and install this. And let me delete some of this. Okay. Cool. So once you have that done and you have VirtualBox installed and open, we're ready to go. So let me just delete some of this stuff. So machine, remove, delete all files, and we want this one deleted too, because we're going to create a tutorial one. Delete all files, cool. And this is the machine that I personally developed with. Not that that matters. Okay, so let's just rewind a little bit. I want you to click the New button right here, or you can go to File, or I think, yeah, Machine New, I'm sorry. Or you can just click the New button. It doesn't really matter. You'll be taken here. I'm going to call mine xubuntu tutorial. You can call yours whatever you want. It doesn't really matter. We're using Linux, but you can see you can install other OSs as well. And we're going to use Linux Other 64. Unfortunately, they don't have a xubuntu one. And if you have a 32-bit machine, you would just use Other Linux. So it just depends on your hardware for that. Next, I like to take mine all the way up to the green. And that just gives me the most RAM, the recommended most RAM. So basically it'll run a little bit faster. That's where I would take mine to. Next, I want to create a virtual hard drive. Okay. So it's going to create a VDI. I want it to be dynamic. That just means that it's not going to take up all that space, but it can expand to that space. I like to make mine, and this is just personal preference, 64. I think that's a good number. But it's not going to take up 64 gigs because we clicked on dynamic. So don't panic. And now I'm going to click the create. And as you can see, we have VirtualBox tutorial. Pretty cool. So now we're going to start. And now it's asking us, what do I want to start this thing off on? So I'm going to choose, I have mine downloaded on my desktop, the ISO, which is basically the Linux. It's like just consider it like a zip file for running Linux, right? It's an image file. And I have mine on my desktop right here. So this is the one I want to run. So I'm going to click open. and I'm going to click Start, and I'll expand that. So now it's going to start the process. I'm probably going to pause the video because this takes a little bit of time. Installing xubuntu takes about 30 minutes. So once everything gets rolling and starts copying files from the internet and doing all that stuff, getting the latest and greatest, we'll probably just take a break. You won't notice the break, but I'll tell you I'm taking a break. So that's what's going on there. Okay, so I'm going to close these out. Don't worry about these. It's doing its thing. We'll let it just do its thing. Okay, so for me, I speak English, as I'm sure you could guess, and I'm going to install xubuntu. So that's fine. We're going to download updates. I don't really need this, so I'm not. You can if you want. If you want to install the MP3 plugin, you can always install it later. It's not that big of a decision. You want this. You want to make sure this is on because basically it'll let you, it'll just install a fresh copy and you want everything partitioned. Makes simple. So you just click Install Now and it's up and running. So I'm in the Chicago time zone. That's correct. Yep. For me, you know, I'm going to pick the English keyword. So I'm going to do, I'm going to have the name of this be tutorial. I'm going to make my password be something, you know, you want your password to be something secret. So whatever works for you. And then you just click continue. And we're in probably something that could take 30 minutes. It depends on your internet connection too and how fast your computer is. The cool thing is that this is free, so that's good. And it's lighter than xubuntu. So if you're used to, I mean, it's lighter than Ubuntu. So if you're used to Ubuntu, this will probably run a little bit faster. You probably won't notice it. So what I'm going to do now is just pause the video, and we'll just go from there. And also, there will be links in the descriptions to these websites. So I'm not going to leave anyone hanging. So anyway, we'll see you soon. Okay, so we are installing it, and now it's asking me to restart. So if it does this to you, you just want to click restart, just like you normally would on any OS. Nothing too fancy. It took me from the install screen to the restart screen, so now it's just going to restart. Just part of the normal process of installing xubuntu. I just don't want you to sit there for like 8 minutes or whatever and, you know, have to deal with that. Okay, it says it's encrypting disk. Yeah, just let it do its thing. I'm gonna press enter. Yeah, so press enter. Do what it says. You know, don't try to second guess it. So yeah, when you get to that point, if you do, just press enter, and it's gonna start rebooting. Okay. And I think we have it installed. Hopefully. Cool. So now you enter in your password. CAS. Oops, I'm saying it out loud. Better shut up. Don't give away your password. don't be insecure. Okay. So just a little bit more about the site while everything's booting up. We're going to be building this website using a bunch of programming languages. Like I said, don't let that freak you out, but we will be. And we're going to need to install a few things. So I'm going to look up look that up really quick. And just to show you that, I don't know everything, there's a command that I'm looking for that we're going to run on the command line. And I am going to, like I said, have that all in the description. So I'm going to type in install lamp command line and Ubuntu, because Ubuntu is really close to Xubuntu. So I think this is the one I usually use. Okay. So let's just start following the instructions. So we're going to start by going here, and it does that sometimes, just ignore that. I'm going to start by going here, and we want to go to the terminal, so right here. Alright, so now that we have our terminal up, let's follow these steps. So our first thing we need to do is install Apache. Really easy. Yep, so sudo apt get update, right? And then you got to enter in your root password. That would be the your main password. They're going to be both the same. The one you entered is your root password, and your root password is basically like your super user password. So the root user has basically access to everything and can do, yeah, just has access to everything. So always be careful when you're in root, because you can do a lot of damage to your operating system. So it's downloading its stuff. So what we're going to be installing is LAMP. We already have Linux installed. The A part that we're about to install now is Apache, and that basically handles the routing and a lot of the communication between us and between our server and the web browser. So we're going to install Apache 2. So we're going to say sudo, which means log in as the root user, apt get install. So go out and get this and install it. Apache 2. And it's going to do that, and then you want to type in yes, and we'll let it do its thing. So we're going to save you a lot of grief too. Apache 2.3, which I think is what we're really installing, and luckily you can see that I almost fell, is they changed up the way they write their configs a little bit, so that the way you configure Apache's changed up a little bit, and I spent about 6 hours trying to figure that out. So our next step is installing MySQL. And MySQL is a free web server, a free database server. I'm sorry, not web server. So we want to install this. So one thing you can do is you can copy, and to paste in the Ubuntu command line, you use the Control-Shift-V key. Then just press enter, and let's see. Okay, that looks like that is not available. So we're just going to do it from my memory. Sudo apt get install MySQL server. And I'll be writing that command down. So that's what we want to install. And now it's going to ask us for our root password. Now, my passwords on my local machine are not very secure, but when I upload it to the real world where there's bad guys, and don't get conspiratorial on me, but there are hackers out there and people that want to do bad things to your website. And I know not every hacker is trying to do bad things, but that's another conversation. But yeah, you want your password to be secure, at least You really do. You want your database password to be secure. So 15 characters or more. But the one on my local machine is not secure. So we just got to go through this installation rigmarole. Nothing too exciting. And like I said, I'm going to be writing these down so you'll be able to get to them. Okay, so now you have to enter in your MySQL password. Like I said, mine is not going to be secure. My production environment is secure. Not that it's hack-proof, but it is secure. So that's important. I've seen Alex on PHP Academy. He doesn't even use a password on his local environment for his tutorials. So I don't know. I think we're a little paranoid, and at least in America anyway, I get that feeling. I don't want to start preaching though. Okay. The last thing we need to do is install PHP, and then we'll have installed our LAMP. So sudo apt get install PHP 5. And PHP is the server language that we're going to be using to connect to the database, and it's basically like the glue of our site. Not on the front end, but on the back end. And let's talk about those terms for a second. The front end refers to the front part of your website, so the part that people see. It includes HTML, CSS, which is used to style elements, so you can color your text. All that stuff is written in a language called CSS. And JavaScript, which is a scripting language, which kind of makes your site come alive. Unfortunately, the people that created JavaScript created a lot of confusion by calling it that, and they did that on purpose, as hard as that is to believe, as a marketing ploy, and it's just been destructive ever since. JavaScript and Java have nothing to do with each other, and I like to apologize on behalf of the web programming community for that monstrosity, because it has caused a lot of confusion. And it pisses me off. It really does, because it's not like, you have new people coming in and it's like some marketing clown thought this was a good idea, and it just wasn't. So it's all good. So we're just going to look here. There's a few things we do need to install. We need to install curl, which is used to communicate with other websites, and that's what you need curl in order to install other things that we're going to need for the framework that we're using. So cool, got that. So we're going to do sudo apt get install. This is how you install things on Linux, by the way. Curl. Pretty simple. Yes. Hooray. So this isn't, xubuntu isn't a, just to let you know, is not something that you would run a production server on. But it's nice because it has a GUI and a user interface. But this is not production server material, just in case you were wondering. CentOS, C-E-N-T-O-S would be one. Debian might be one. I've seen people use those flavors of Linux, if you will. So we've installed curl. We've installed that. Next, we want to install a really nifty program called PHPMYADMIN. So you're going to do sudo apt get install PHPMyAdmin. Okay, and we want to say yes. Now this will ask you for your root password word for your MySQL database. And really, I use this mainly to look at my MySQL database. It's a really handy graphical tool, if you will. That's what I use it for. So, really cool stuff. So at the end of this, I guess, little playlist thing, we'll have our developer environment set up, and we'll be ready to build the pinball high score website that I know everyone wants to build. But it will be fun, and one thing too that's really important is that you're following along. So just do everything step by step, and don't be afraid to ask questions. Go on to Stack Overflow. In fact, I'm going to have a list on my thing of just really good websites to ask questions. I think Stack Overflow is the best. You want to choose Apache, by the way, so because that's what we're using, and remember that's what we just installed. So choose Apache for that. There's other ways you can do it, but you want to choose Apache. Yes, we want to configure the database. It needs our root password, so whatever you typed in, and that's fine. And we'll do that again. And it's going through its rigmarole. So now we have PHPMYADMIN. Yay! Okay, and you can see if you would have, I think you could have seen this. Yeah, we now have a new developer menu on our menu bar, and we have PHPMYADMIN. So that's cool. Take a look at that a little bit later. Now we need to get what I'm going to call, and what most people call, an IDE, and that stands for Integrated Developer Environment. And what that means in English is it's a text editor that allows you to write code, edit code, and gives you helpful hints as you're writing code. In the spirit of being free and easy to start up, we're going to use NetBeans. NetBeans is a free IDE that's developed now by maintained by Oracle, which is like the largest database company in the world. So that's pretty cool. You think about it. I've never thought about it until now, actually. So you want to go to netbeans.org and you want to click download. Okay, so you can download the all version. Because I'm just a PHP guy, and if I want to do it, the only reason I'm going to write Java is for Android. And I absolutely despise Tomcat. If there's any Tomcat fans, I'm sorry. It's just terrible. It's awful. So because this just fits my needs, I'm just going to download the PHP one, and it's a lot lighter, and it's going to download a lot quicker. Okay. So we're going to get our SH file. Now the other thing that we're going to have to install too is OpenJDK7, so the Open Java Developer Kit, and that'll help us run NetBeans, and that's a requirement, so you have to install that. Whew. Whew. There's a lot of stuff to do. So let's see, we're going to get that installed, we'll have NetBeans installed, and then we're going to write our config file. So our website on our local machine, the way we'll access it will be pinball.highscore. You won't be able to access it outside of your machine like that. That's obvious. .highscore at this point in time is not a top-level domain, so that sucks. But I don't know. I don't want to get involved in politics, so I keep this very neutral. It would be kind of cool, though, if it was. I don't know the practicality of it, but it would be kind of cool. But we don't do things because they're cool, I guess. So, and we wait for it to download. So, we're going to have NetBeans. We're going to also need to probably go over just some basic commands once this is downloaded and installed, just so you can navigate through your file system on your command line and change permissions of your file system. So Unix or Linux has a different way of handling user rights. A little different way of accessing them than the standard Windows or Macintosh way of accessing user rights. Honestly, I only know the LAMP way. So, okay, so now that we've downloaded the file, our first command that we're going to learn is cd, and that means change directory, and you have to type in cd. So we're going to say, so we're going to change directory to our root directory. We're going to say cd home, right? And remember, our user is tutorial. In my case, it was whatever your user was. So we'll go to cd and let's see what we have. Home directory ls. Oh yeah, my user was Anglazer, which is why I wasn't getting that. So you can type in n, so cd n, and then tab, and that'll take you to the next thing. So then we're going to do ls, which means list. Cd means change directory. And that's going to show us all of the folders and files in that directory. So we want to say cd downloads because it downloaded in the downloads directory. And now we're going to ls and see what's there. Cool. And before we do that, I have to install Java, the Java SDK. So sudo apt-get install open jdk dash. I'm gonna have to look that one up. I'm sorry. You don't want to type in the wrong thing. Not that anything bad will happen. So I'm gonna go to Google because I don't know everything. I'm gonna type in install open jdk7. We'll go with Ubuntu. So open, we'll go with that. And it's, right, so sudo, this is the one we want, sudo apt-get install open jdk7 dash jdk dash 7 dash jre. So we're just going to copy and paste that bad boy. You don't want the $sign. You do not want the $sign. So you're going to copy that and paste that in there. So it's close. We're going to install. We're going to say yes. And it's rocking and rolling. And you have to do this before you install NetBeans. It'll give you a weird error if you don't. Luckily, the good news is that you only have to do this once. You only have to go through this pain in the butt once. So we got about 40 seconds, I guess. Hopefully. It's always good to have a wired connection. I have a wireless connection right now. So another thing you can do is you can do file new tab. You can go to a new tab. So while that's downloading, we'll go to a new tab and we'll let it do its thing. You can kind of see it's taking its a little sweet time. We'll explore where our website's going to be. So we're going to go to cd var ww. Notice I can press tab, it will take me there. And we're there. And it's installing its thing, it's still going. And this is where our we go to localhost. This is the files that it will read and we'll start with. So if I go to my thing right here and I go to localhost, and see it works. And that's the file that the Apache comes with. So it's in our var ww folder. If I wanted to see that in a graphical way, I could go to accessories and then file manager. And then let's put this to the center a little bit more, and then I can go to file system and I can go to var and ww, and index.html is what you're seeing. And unfortunately it took me to that page, which was appropriate, but I was hoping it would take me to the source code. And I think this is done. Okay, cool. So now that that's done, we took a little bit of a detour. We're going to install NetBeans. So you go sh, then you can type in L, I think. Well, let's type in ls just to see what the file name is. Okay, so you can type in shn NetBeans, and you just click enter. Okay, so it's configuring our IDE and saying it'll install with the PHP pack. NetBeans 7.4, they've added they've just done a really good job. I like this version a lot. And I would really encourage you to upgrade if you're using an older version, because I think it's worth the time. So we'll let it install. This could take a little bit of time, no big deal, nothing to worry about. Okay, so here's something else that's kind of cool. You can view something on the command line, so you can view a file without writing to it with the LESS command, and that'll show us the insides of the file if it's a if it's a file that you can read like through a text editor. And as you can see, this is the inside of that file. And sometimes that comes in handy if you're writing logs. So to get out of that program, you just type in :Q, and that'll get you out of less. So while that's doing its thing, let's set up our directory. The directory that we're going to be using to store all of our Laravel web installations will be Laravel. And so what you want to do is you want to type in sudo, which means root user, mkdir Laravel. And you got to enter in your root password. And then let's type in ls, and that'll take us, as you can see, we created a folder called Laravel. And let's just confirm that. As you can see, we've created it. So our next step is we're going to change the owner of that folder. So we're going to say sudo chown, which means change owner. Then we're going to type in our username. And we have to type in the file too, obviously. So our file is called Laravel. And now if we type in ls-l, you'll be able to see the owner of the file. So as you can see, the owner of the file is me, and Glazer. Cool. But if you want it, really the way you should do it is like this, because this way you can get root ownership too. So you'll do it like this. And now if we type in ls-l, you'll be able to see that I completely own that folder. I own that folder. It's mine. So anyway, NetBeans went through its installation and it's now done. So we've got that up. We've got NetBeans. We've got our LAMP setup up. We're really close to being done. And if you've hung in this long, you know, you're doing really good. I know this can be very tedious at times. So our next step is going to be installing Laravel, which is the PHP framework that's free that we're going to use. Don't worry if you don't know what that means. Let me explain it. PHP framework, PHP is a language, and a framework is like a collection of functions and libraries that helps you build something. So we're going to laravel.com, and this framework is free. It's really good, and the community around this framework is just amazing. So we're going to click the Quick Start. And what we're going to do is we're going to download Composer, because we're going to install this with Composer. So let's go to Composer. We can go to it right here. I think it's called getcomposer.org. Hopefully that'll take us to the right place. So we want to click Download. So go to getcomposer.org and click Download button. And since we installed curl, and this is one of the reasons why we installed curl, we can just copy this command. And we'll then go right here and say Control-Shift-V, and we'll let her roll. Oh, look at that. Permission denied. Okay, so if you want to cancel a command, and we're going to cancel this one, we're going to say Control-C. And the reason is that our user unfortunately doesn't have permissions to do that. So we're going to say CD Laravel, and we're just going to download it here. So Control-Shift-V. I could change the owner of the www folder like I did with the Laravel folder, but there's really no point. And it's downloading, and hopefully it will do its thing. So now if I type in ls, I get the Laravel, get the Composer. Now I want to move it to the user bin library directory so I don't have to type in far and I can access it from anywhere. So there's a little tip. Getting started. I'm pretty sure is it getting started? We'll find out. Because it'll tell me where to paste that composer thing. Okay, so you can globally access it. So we're going to move, MV stands for move, the composer file to this directory. So it won't have the .phr anymore. But it'll still be the same file. So that's cool. So Control-Shift-V once you've copied it. Okay, so this is one case where you're going to have to do sudo, which means you're basically saying I'm a root user, I have the power to do this. So then type in sudo Control-Shift-V and it should be moved. And it is, because it's no longer there, which is great. So what we're going to do now is we're going to have all of our Laravel installations in this one folder. But I'm going to make another directory, so that's sudo mk, so sudo means root user, mkdir means make directory. And we're going to call this directory pinball. You can call it whatever you want. Yeah, just call it pinball. Don't be a hard butt. Okay, so now if I go into ls, we got our pinball. Cool. So now we're going to install Laravel. And what Composer does is it basically manages the libraries in your framework. And a lot of frameworks use this to manage your library. So if you want, say you find a really cool JavaScript library. JavaScript, like I said, is the scripting language that's used to make stuff move on your web pages. You can usually install it with Composer, which is really cool. And you can install which version you want. And so it keeps track of all that and makes sure that you're not doing anything stupid. So we're going to need to edit this just a little bit. So we're going to go edit and then paste, and this is another way you can paste. And what we want to do is keep everything the same except for where we're going to put this. So we're going to say /var var ww Laravel pinball. And we're off to the races. This might not work because we might not have permission to put it in here. So permissions can be kind of a pain in the butt. Oh, it is working. That's great. Okay, so we're going to run a Composer update, but before we do, we're going to actually open up NetBeans and paste some things that I want us to have in our Composer file, in our installation. Some things that will help us develop the pinball website a little bit faster. So let's let it install and do its thing. What's also cool is if you're a Symfony fan like me, or Symphanatic, a lot of Laravel is built with Symfony components, and Symfony is another PHP framework. It's a little bit harder, especially for beginners. So that's why we're going with Laravel, especially to start, but it's a little bit more powerful too. There's not really a better one. I know everyone thinks there's a better one. You know, one framework to control them all, but unfortunately there's not, in my opinion. And I like the diversity. I think what we need to move toward, though, in the PHP community, and this is just a side note, is you know, get away from general purpose frameworks. So notice that this thing, right, mcrypt not installed, and that's something I forgot. Mcrypt is something that we'll use to encrypt our password. So we're going to install it, sudo apt get install, and we're going to say mcrypt, mcrypt, and oh, I thought it was going to make us say yes. So let's run a Composer update. So the way we do that, we're going to go into our folder, our pinball folder. Now let's type in ls. And what we want to make sure is that we have this composer.json file, which basically tells Composer which packages to upload and whatnot. Now, it shouldn't really do anything, but I just want to make sure that we don't have to put anything in our PHP file or PHPMYADMIN file, which I'm going to try not to touch. And that's basically your PHP config file. So that's what controls like how your PHP runs and all that stuff. So it's saying, so yeah, it looks like we're going to have to now do it again. So we're going to have to get a little bit more to it, a little bit more. So now you're going to have to type in sudo apt-get php5 mcrypt. And that's invalid because I forgot to put in install. So we're going to make some mistakes, and we're winging it a little bit. We're not perfect. And it's supposedly installed. Okay, so let's Google it. Let's see what the deal is. Script, PHP artisan, clear compile handling, post update, CMD, with an error runtime output. Okay, no big deal. So let's see. PHP mcrypt install. Let's see what they say. So I like Stack Overflow because it's the bomb. And fortunately we're using an Ubuntu distro, so that doesn't apply to us, so we're going to type in Ubuntu. Let's see. Nope, I don't like that either. So I guess let's look at this one right here. Just want to make sure that we're getting this. So we'll try to run that just to see if that's what we ran before. I thought that's what we did. And let's just try to restart Apache. So the way you restart Apache is sudo, and for that matter other services. So sudo service, the service name, which is Apache 2, and then restart. Pretty simple. And hopefully I don't think you need to do all that. Yeah, I think that's good. You can also restart Apache this way as well. Doesn't really matter. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to write a config file for our virtual directory. And that's not as scary as it seems. So I want you to type cd-etza-apache2, then ls, and then we want to go cd sites available, ls. This is very important, what I'm about to tell you. Not necessary, but important. cp sudo cp dash, then you can type tab, and then the name of your file. So I'm going to call mine pinball, but I have to put on the .cnof. You used to not have to do that, now you have to do that. So I'm going to type push enter, and I copied it, and now I'm going to do sudo, and what I'm going to use is mousepad, which is a text pad editor. I don't need NetBeans for this. Sudo mousepad pinball. So I can type tab, and it opens it up. Cool. So what we want to do is we want to tell Apache where to point stuff. So our document root is going to be Laravel, then pinball, and then I want to just make sure that we get this right. So we're going to type in virtual host. Let's say directory. And what we want is it's not that. Let's see. Once I see it, I'll know it. Yes, this is really close. Yep, that's what we want. So ours is going to be a little different than this, but we're just going to copy this, and then I'm going to explain this to you really quick, because this is not exciting stuff, I know. So put that in there, and we're going to make sure that we get our document directory right. And our document directory is going to be public, and that's where our index.php file, and remember PHP is the web language, so that's where we're going to be starting from. And we're going to say public, and then we're going to say public right here, and then we want server name to be pinball.local, and we want to allow from all. I think that's right. Okay. So now we want to, you can hit Control S or just save, and that'll save the changes to this file. And basically what you're saying is, for everyone who types in pinball.local on this machine, I want them to go to that directory, and I want to allow overrides. So allow some PHP magic, if you will, some file writing magic to happen. So basically it allows us to take out the .php from the file names. So that's all it does in a nutshell, nothing too exciting. In order to get this to work though, we need to put put something in our host file as well. So we're going to go to, we're going to type, and we also need to copy this to the sites enabled folder. So we're going to type in sudo again, sudo cp pinball.config, and we're going to copy this in, so it's etc, right? Apache 2 sites enabled this time, and then we're going to say pinball.config. Alright, okay. And now we're going to get to change the host file. So guys, I'm sorry, this is my first real tutorial on the web, so I really appreciate everyone sticking with me that has stuck with me. And that's wrong. What you want to do is type in etc hosts. But before you do that, you have to put in a command, because then our command would be mousepad, which is the name of our text editing software. And all you do is you just copy this, place that right there, and we're going to say pinball.highscore. I'm going to make sure that that's what I put in for the server name. And am I spelling high score right? I'm a terrible speller. I just want to make sure. High score. Yep, I got that right. Okay. So whenever somebody goes to that IP address, which is our local IP address, they're going to it's telling them to go to that server, and then the virtual host tells them to go to the folder on the server. So I hope that makes some sense. So let's just sudo mousepad our way in to the pinball.config file, and we called it pinball.local. We want to call it pinball.highscore. That's what I want to call it because I think that's cool. Call it whatever you want. So I'm not a hater. So we want to Control S, saves it, and then we want to sudo cp what we just did. So pinball to it's a Apache 2 sites enabled pinball.conf. So just copy that over and just replaced what was ever there with the new CNF file. So we're going to sudo Apache 2 restart. Make sure that it restarts, and it does. And let's see. So now we're going to update some stuff for Laravel. Well, some packages we want to install that'll make development easier. So to do that, we're going to open up NetBeans, and we're going to create a Laravel turn our folder into a NetBeans project. So we'll be able to access it with the NetBeans integrated developer environment. And remember, an integrated developer environment is just a fancy text editor for writing code. So it doesn't have to be anything more complex than that. So we're going to go to File, New Project. And what we want is a PHP project with existing source code. This is very important. We're going to select PHP 5.4. We're going to browse. We're going to go up a little bit until we get to our root folder, which is that folder right there. We go into var www Laravel pinball. We're going to click open once we get there. Then we're going to click next. And for our index file, we're going to go into here, or into our public folder. We're going to click index.php. And then we're going to click finish. So one thing I want to install really quick is a NetBeans help generator. So it's going to help us generate NetBeans stuff, or going to help us generate help text for Laravel. So if we're typing a function, it'll help us find the function that we're looking for. And we might have to do a little bit more work with mcrypt. So just be ready for that. So I'm going to type Google. We're going to Google NetBeans Laravel helper, and that takes us, I saw the site that I wanted, which is right here. I think this is it. And that's not it. So we want to go to this site. So it's .github, and I'll write this site down too for you. And I don't care about Flash. Okay. We're going to scroll down a little bit, and we're going to copy this. This is our first thing that we're going to copy. And we're going to put that in our composer.json file. and that basically tells Composer, hey, I want to install this package. So we put it in our required part right here. And don't worry, this all seems Greek. Just go along with me. This is just a way of saying key value pairs. That's all this is. It's just a series of key value pairs. So this is the key, and then this is the value, and it's saying, so, and required just means that on the next Composer update, it needs to install that. The next thing we're going to do is put it in our package folder. So in the package part of this file, which basically is going to tell Laravel, hey, you need to you're running this package. So we're going to go to app.php. So it's in the, just to be clear, it's in the app config and then app file. And this is something else we're going to change to. So we're going, remember, our domain for this tutorial is pinball. So I want you to change this while we're here. High score. We're going to save that. Go down. We need to run this for sure because that is not a secret key. That's terrible. So we need to make sure that we get mcrypt installed so we can generate that key. Something that Composer does for us. And we're going to get that. So we don't have, we obviously need to get mcrypt installed. So to do that, unfortunately, I was hoping I could avoid this. We're going to have to go to our PHPINI file, which configures our PHP. No, this is insane. So in order to run the file, in order to generate the file that's going to help us, we're going to need to get mcrypt. So mcrypt PHPINI. Yep, so that's what we need, fortunately. So we're going to copy that. And this is where, as of this version of Ubuntu, where xubuntu, where the PHPINI file is. So we're going to type in cd etc php5 Apache 2. Then we're going to click it, hit enter, ls, which means list the files. As you can see, our php.ini file is there. So we're just going to use our normal text editor, sudo mousepad phpini. And it creates this big monster of a file. So we're going to copy this extension, which is going to allow us to use it. I was hoping sometimes on some versions it lets me not do this, so I was hoping I didn't have to do this because I don't like messing with this. You can get yourself into a lot of trouble if you don't know what you're doing messing with this. But just copy that at the end, like so, extension equals mcrypt so, and we're going to have to restart Apache. So remember how we do that? Sudo restart Apache 2, service restart Apache 2. And that's because I typed it in wrong. Apache 2 restart. So it's that. So now we're restarting Apache. Cool. So now let's go to our Laravel folder, which is in our var ww Laravel pinball. Pinball. We're going to do a Composer update. And hopefully mcrypt's installed. And it should download the NetBeans helper that we're going to need. After we're done with that, we're going to take a quick look at what are we going to take a quick look at? Oh yeah, we're going to take a quick look at PHPMYADMIN, just to give you a little tour of that. And from there, we'll just start off with HTML, and mcrypt is still not installed. Script PHP artisan clear command. So yeah, I hadn't had to deal with this because I dealt with this before. I just don't remember how I dealt with it. So let's copy that and paste that into Google. And that's exactly what's happening. Let's see what the guy says. Okay, so first we're just gonna go through what he says. So it's saying we don't have mcrypt, so that's no big deal. So sudo, we've already done this before, but get PHP 5. Oh, well, you know, before we do that, let's do a sudo apt-get update, just to see if there's anything that we might be missing. You know, we might not have had that package available, and sudo apt-get updates all the packages that we can download with the sudo apt-get command. Sudo it really isn't part of the command, just to let you know. Okay. So now let's do it. Sudo apt get install php 5-mcryp, and it says 0 upgrade, 0 install. So let's see what this does. The mcrypt extension, otherwise it'll say, yep, so our mcrypt extension is not present. So we're gonna just have to follow this guy's little tutorial thing ourselves. This is just part of learning. You know, you Google stuff, you learn stuff. You know, you don't panic. So we just did that. We ran that command, and now let's enable the mod, quote unquote. And we just did that. And then we're going to restart Apache. Cool. And then we're going to check and see if it's running. Hopefully it is. And we'll be able to go about our day. Yay, it's running. Okay. So now let's do a composer update. Boom shakalaka. And then there's one last thing we're going to have to do, and that is change the permissions on our app storage folder, which stores all our logs and our cache and all that stuff. Logs are basically when something goes wrong with your program, a log will record your errors, and your cache is basically like temporary files on the website, so it doesn't have to serve it up every time. It can just go to that temporary folder to get it. So in order to run it, if we've done everything right, we're going to do our cache, and then I'm going to go through it, just take a look at PHPMYADMIN, because I think you might be curious about that. So in order to do that, oops, and before we do that, really quickly, I'm so sorry, I've got ADHD, I think. We need to change our htaccess file. I forgot about that completely. And the only thing we need to do there is just rewrite base. I think it's backslash. And I think that should do it. There. And then we're just going to change our folder. See if we see the Laravel installation screen. So we're going to do sudo, sudo apt, no, sudo cmod, which means change mode, -r 77, which I think means recursive, and 77, just 777 means all permissions granted, read, write, access, all that granted, app, storage. And now that we've done that, and we added that little thing to our config, our htaccess file, which is located in our public folder under .htaccess, we should be able to, we did everything right, which we probably didn't, pinball.high score. And we did do everything right. Okay, we're there. I guess there's a first time for everything. Whew. That is how you set up a developer environment, folks. What a long, arduous process. Oh, I can't even spell arduous. Okay, so now we want to go to PHPMYADMIN just to check out that because it's cool. So we're going to go there. I'm going to log in with the root password, which is how most people do it, I think. And this is our PHPMYADMIN. So we can create databases, and we'll go over that. Look at databases, you know, do all that cool stuff like storing information and all that coolness. We'll be doing that. But that wraps up this video, which was a very long video on how to get your virtual machine up and running, get our developer environment up and running. I'm going to go through this and take notes for you so you can just follow along with the steps and laugh at me and my goofiness, if you will. And I'm going to bookmark this page as well. Stack Overflow is really good as far as getting you to where you need to be. So that concludes setting up your developer environment. I hope you guys have a great day, and I'll see you soon. Boom, boom. I gotta switch out of full screen. And